Yes, people. Welcome back to another episode of Lion in the Room. I am your host, Leo Doche Jr., and it's good to be here with you guys. How are you doing? I hope everyone is doing well. This is going to be a lovely episode and probably even a short one, but I hope it's going to be impactful and I hope you get to learn from it. To be honest, it's going to be about mental health. This was a discussion I had with my boy Collar, the co-host at the time, like 2 years ago. But today it's going to be a bit different. So what I have here, like I said, we will be discussing mental health, but our topic today is mental health isn't just a feeling, it's how you live. And it should resonate with a lot of people. It resonates with me because you realize that your mental health is not just affected at points of hardship, but your mental health is tested every day. Every day you wake up, you realize that there are things you need to do, but you may not feel like going through with those things. That's when you now have to start looking at how you feel and how you choose to go about your day. But let me not yap on. So what I have here, we're going to look at the first segment, and that is why we feel off, even when nothing's wrong. You know, when you go to work, you're with your friends, colleagues, you're in an environment that feels safe and comfortable, but you just don't feel that way. And it's understandable, but let's go about how and why those feelings come about. Now, the first question I have, or if anything, I should let you go through the core angle. So one of the quotes I have here says that modern mental strain isn't always trauma. It's often pressure, comparison, and a lack of clarity. I'm not going to touch everything at once, so let's look at pressure first. Feeling pressure, feeling as though there is a weight on you to get something done or to do something a particular way or to live your life like another person. I think that's something that we all face, we all struggle every day. And that's due to, I would say, the influx of social media. It's everywhere now and it's easily accessible. Imagine 20 years ago, you're not really getting to know what all your friends are doing in that same day at the same time because you're all in different locations. But now you can keep up with all your friends. But do you always find it easy to keep up? Are you satisfied with your life? And how do you feel when you see your friends' achievements? That's when you start to look at your mental, because it does affect you when you don't know how to go about it. Now back to the questions. So the first question here is, why do so many people feel mentally drained, even when life looks fine on paper? And a lot of times that's one, because we're not satisfied with our life. You could really look at everything that you have and one day you feel like this is enough. But as I mentioned, social media allows you to see what other people are doing, what other people are posting, and how their lives are going. And that can affect you because you start to feel like maybe you're not doing things right. You are not living your life to your best ability. And sometimes you just feel like life isn't fair. I think those things start to affect you. And it can be very draining when you start to put, I won't call them fake expectations, but expectations based off of what you've seen on social media. You start to place them on yourself and they can heavily burden you. Because the one thing about social media is that it's not 100% real. I could post all my successes, and the one thing you won't know is that all those times I won may have been in different intervals during, like, throughout the month or throughout the year. But to you, you're just seeing win after win after win. And that then makes you feel like you're not winning, or your wins aren't consecutive or consistent, you know? So you have to try and focus more on yourself and how you go about your life and how you want to win. Don't feel as though you're losing. Don't feel as though life isn't fair to you. Just take everything one step at a time, because the one thing you don't know is that the person behind their phone, behind their camera, may not have a sweet life. They're just showing you what the highlights. Yeah, that's what they call it. They're showing you their reels and highlights. So let's move on. I think I touched that quite well. The next question here is, how much of our stress comes from comparison especially through social media? Okay, well, very similar. So I'll just touch on that really quickly. How much of our stress comes from comparison? I'd say a lot, because we may not agree with it, but sometimes we find ourselves focusing on other people's lives more than we focus on ours. When you end up looking at what another person has, you start to look at their age, you start to search up, let's say maybe the work that they do. Once you're able to see how they are similar to you, you start to compare lives and you really feel like you're nowhere near. For example, maybe like sports star Jude Bellingham. I think he's a bit younger than I am, but he's successful. If I said that my life isn't great because I'm nowhere near Bellingham's status, then that might cause me to ultimately quit and I might never reach Leo's success. You get what I mean? Your life and your success will always be different. And you want to avoid comparison because it sticks in your head and it does make you look at people a different way, normally in a negative way. Now, do we do we even give ourselves time to process life anymore? A lot of times we don't, because we're still focused on other people's lives. You need to be able to sit down and process what it is you want for yourself and process how your life is going. I made a reel earlier on about how we live our lives, whether we are reacting or we are actually making the choices for ourselves. And as people, you want to be able to give yourself time to really just look at how your life is going. I think you need to be able to do that. That's why they say meditation is important. You need to be able to calmly assess yourself and assess where it is you want to go. And if you do find yourself in a process where you cannot evaluate, take some time, maybe like 3 minutes, and think about the good things you've done. When you think about the good things you've done, you end up finding yourself probably, what's that word now? Evaluating further. You start to look at the mistakes, what you could have done better, and then you find yourself moving forward to the next step, and it becomes a lot easier to actually assess yourself. So we need to be able to calm down, look at life, and really just ask yourself what it is you want to improve, what it is you want to drop, and how you can get there. So I think that's a good way to assess, especially if you're not doing that. Now, before I move over to the next segment, I do have a key message that I should leave with you guys. And that is that not all mental struggles come from something dramatic. You know, sometimes it's how we're living daily. It's really just based off of how we choose to live our lives. Imagine when you decide to wake up in the day and you decide to leave your bedroom in a mess. I think that affects mental space, because if you live in an area that is not organized, it's not tidy, it will affect you. I mean, if I stay in a messy room, at least nowadays, if I stay in a messy room, it does make me a little uncomfortable. But now I have the decision to either clean up that space, choose to make time to prepare my area, or just lay in that sty. And it's not always a comfortable way to live, because it will affect how you go about life in the future. Now, moving on to the second segment, we need to be able to look at what we're doing to cope and if it's actually helping. You know, coping in some situations can be very good, you know, especially when you're not in a truly bad place. You can tolerate some things, you can manage some things if you know that the end goal is still truly positive and you are not seriously disadvantaged, you know? But you have to understand that this is where you get real about behavior. You get real about your behavior. The core angle for this segment says that people are coping, but not always in healthy or effective ways. So that means more times than not, you're coping in a very bad situation. And that does affect your mental health too. Going into the questions, first question I have here is, how do most people deal with stress today? And do we face it or avoid it? Now, I want to always look at the positives first. But in this case, I feel like a lot of times we start avoiding things. We start with avoiding because we don't know how to go about it. You may not have you may not have sound counsel, you may not have the right people around you. So that pressure causes you to just push those things away because you don't know how to address it. But when it comes to stress, if you do not address it today, it only just piles up. It's like your room, like I said, you don't clean your room up, and then tomorrow is only going to get messier. You bring out some clothes, you leave them where you want to leave them, and you realize that tomorrow they're still there because there's no one else that's going to address that but you. Stress is something, honestly, because it's understandable to feel stressed, but it's not good to allow yourself to be overstressed. I recently found out that it can affect your immune system and cause it to not work as properly as it needs to. That's really wild. How do most people deal with stress today? Like I said, a lot of people start off by avoiding, but when you decide to face it, you feel a whole lot better. It's almost relieving in a sense, when you actually acknowledge whatever the problem is, whatever it is that's giving you stress, and you start to look at ways to gradually solve the issue. Even if it's a step-by-step process, you feel better once you go through the first step. Once you go through 3 steps, you feel as though this is going to be relieved completely. But to get to that point, you need to be able to either move in fear or completely push it aside, because that's going to be one of the things that causes stress to remain, and your mental health would be negatively affected. I hope you get where I'm coming from, and I hope I'm not waffling. But let's move on to the next question, which is, what's the difference between rest and escape? Now, the difference between rest and escape is that rest is it's essential, it's crucial, and you rest so that you can revitalize yourself. Even in moments where you rest, you can find breakthroughs. Moments where you have your siestas, you can get new ideas, better ways to move forward. But when you escaping is very close to procrastination, similar to procrastination. You see the issues, you see what's going wrong, and in a moment where you say, I'm going to take a step back, relax, that's almost like you saying, I just want to get away from this. This is too much work for me, and it's stressful, understandable, but you have to come back to it. You have to go back to that messy room and clean it up. So when it comes to whatever it is that you need to escape from, realize that you're supposed to come back to it, because you will face it another day and you may not be able to escape. So rest is a whole lot better. It's not the same as escaping. And rest is essential. I've had times where I decided that I just needed to take a little break. And at that moment, I believe that the Lord God gives me ideas, visions, and I thank Him for that. But at the same time, my brain is able to understand it better. Imagine that I just kept on working non-stop, no time for no breaks. I don't think I'd be able to work to my best ability. So try and keep that in mind. I don't think I need to say too much about that. Let me give you guys one last one. Are we healing or just finding better ways to cope? When they say you need to heal, it really means that you need to let go of whatever it was that affected you, because it's most likely turned you into a person you never wanted to be. So when you look at healing, you realize that as people, are we healing or just finding better ways to cope? We end up coping more than we choose to heal. I think that happens because we are afraid of what life could be like without what it was we were managing. We're afraid of letting go of these things. We're afraid of what could happen if we step back and more problems arise. But the truth is, if there's anything you're coping and it's causing serious issues, you might as well just let go of it. You might as well just leave that space, because in the future, it's not going to do any good for you. Imagine tolerating a space with bad company. You may think you're doing them a favor or doing yourself a favor to avoid conflict, but you get to a point in your life where The company may tolerate you, or you may no longer be tolerable. And then where do you go? You know? So, as people, we need to find better ways to heal, better ways to place our boundaries. And if it was left up to me, only cope in situations where there are positive benefits, to avoid putting yourself in a space where you would regret the outcome. Moving to the final segment now. I think we've gone about this well. This whole conversation on mental health is quite good. It's good for my mental health too. So we're going to be looking at, what does better mental health actually look like? You know, what does it actually mean for our mental health to be good or stable or in the right place? You know, because you could honestly say you're fine and things could be fine. You could be going to work, you could be doing your to-dos, and you may not be fine. So let's look at this and let's find out what we don't know. So the core angle says that mental health is not perfection. It is awareness plus habits plus responsibility. I'll say that again. It is awareness plus habits plus responsibility. Being aware of yourself is also like holding yourself accountable, knowing your shortcomings and knowing your strengths. Looking at your habits, you look at the things you do in your day to day, good habits, bad habits. Do you wipe your nose? Do you clean your mouth after eating? Are you holding on to indulgences or addictions? Are you cursing, or are you a very polite person? And then you look at responsibility, the things you're in charge of, the things you need to do for the betterment of yourself or for the betterment of people who are entrusted to you. And you realize that it's not just something you get. It's not just something you understand in one quick swoop. You really take time with building these things and understanding why these things are important to you. Now, moving on to the questions, I'm going to go for the first one here. It says, what does taking care of your mental health actually look like day to day? And when I saw that question the first time, I actually didn't know how to answer it, because I'm not very big on, or I wasn't very big on checking my mental health. But when I think about it now, I'm a man of many thoughts. So when I think about it now, like, there were times when I was stressed. I was definitely going through times in my life where I was going through periods of hardship, and I just didn't know how to go about it. Now, solutions were there. But being a young person, being a man, being in this world, and hearing all sorts of things, I ended up bottling it inside. But as I've grown, I've come to understand that you need to be able to address these things one step at a time, one at a time, one after the other. So when you look at your day to day and how taking care of your mental health is like, you start off with, maybe some people go with words of affirmation, telling themselves how great they are. Because truly, you are a great person, you're a great guy, you're a great girl. You give yourself words of affirmation to prepare you for the day. Maybe because you never really felt like you were something positive. Words of affirmation. You also look at, like I always say, making your room. It makes you feel good. It really makes you feel good. Meditation, prayer. Prayer is essential, because as a Christian and as a firm believer in God and Jesus Christ, your connection with God, your relationship with God is paramount, because He's the one that wakes you up. He's the one that takes you through your whole day. If you really want your day to be better, you want your day to be good, why not tell God? You know, that's how I go about it. And it does make me feel a lot better for it. What else? What else? We can also look at, well, proper hygiene, proper nutrition. Those are very important. I don't think not eating eggs is going to cause you to feel depressed or nothing, but if you eat well, you will be energized. If you keep yourself clean, you feel good. Honestly, feeling squeaky clean does it does affect your mood. And I think having a good mood affects your mental health. Imagine something bad's happening. Well, you cleaned up, everything's looking good, you did all you needed to do, and things are still fine. It causes you to not dwell on the negative situations and you can still look at the positives that you set out for yourself. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. Next question I have here. Is discipline part of mental health? 100 times yes. 100%. Because a bad day, I mean, you go through a bad day, you have almost every reason to just lament, be grumpy, be stay in your bed all day. But discipline is there to show you that regardless of how life goes, you still need to hold yourself accountable. You still need to follow your to-do list. You still need to get yourself to where you need to be. Because like I've also said in my previous reels and episodes, discipline is always going to have the one up over motivation, you know? So when you struggle with your mental health and you really feel like you can't be motivated, that is where you need discipline. Because it's not as though you're forcing yourself, you're holding yourself by your shirt and you're like, oh, hey, guy, you're going to need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Nah, not really. But you know that good times come and bad times come as well. But if you decide to stick in the bad times, it's going to feel a whole lot worse. A whole lot worse. 2 times, 5 times, 10 times, who knows? All depends on how long you leave it. So always be disciplined. And how do you work on your discipline? It's a step-by-step process. Do things that are important to you, things that you need to do, things that are priority to having a successful day. Build up the fashion of consistency. Build up integrity. You look at your life and you truly say that this is important to me and that's why I'm doing it. Respect your future. Respect your future enough to do all that you need to so that you can be happy. You can be happy with what you've done. And satisfaction comes from that as well. Now I'm just going to give you guys one more question because I think I kind of waffled with that one. But what's your definition of waffle? Is that lying or a mix of the truth and a lie, or is that just plain yapping on? Either way, I like to talk. So final question we got here. What does progress look like when it's not visible? Ooh. What does progress look like when it's not visible? Now, a lot of times progress is what you see progress. You know, when you're learning how to do calculations, there is progress. When you're building a sculpture, there's progress. You're editing a video, there is progress. But what does it look like when it's not visible? So let's look at the progress that we make in our mental. Finishing an assignment a day before submission can bring about a whole lot of anxiety. Yeah? But when you... No, I'm not too comfortable with that. Actually, what does progress look like when it's not visible? I think progress when it's not visible looks like showing up. Showing up another day when you don't feel like it. That's progress. Progress when it's not visible, it looks like being able to show love when love's not shown to you. I hope I'm making sense, because a lot of times with your mental health, no one really knows if you're improving but you. And you realize that you are taking steps every day to be better, to push away the negative feelings, to push away the negative thoughts, the negative things that you see, and to still make the best of your everyday life. You may not ever see that progress physically, but in your mind, in your heart, in your spirit, you know that you're not the same person you were yesterday. Because if a word no longer affects you the way it did affect you last week, I think you've made progress. You don't have to have a badge that says, oh, say what you want about me, I'm not going to make a move. But you will, you would have changed. I don't know, man. That's my answer. That's what that's what it would look like. Invisible progress, I guess. But you are making moves. That's all I can say. A lot of people may not notice it. You may not even notice it at the first chance, but after a while, you will realize that something about you has changed, and it's always, or I hope it's going to be a positive change. So let's wrap this up, guys. Because let's wrap this up with a key message. Mental health improves when your daily habits start supporting your mind, not working against it. So it improves when your daily habits start to support your mind and not work against it. So when your habits are positive, when your habits are things you can learn from, when your habits are things that make you better, that improves your mental health. Not when you are doing things that are affecting you, that are actually causing you pain or being a detriment to any progress you're trying to make. So if you chose to wake up early, have a cold shower, don't know why people do it. You have a cold shower, get ready for school, work early, eat well, leave well, you will be improving. But if you wake up late, move around sluggishly, decide not to take a shower, doing things the way you shouldn't, then it would affect your mental health. Because along the line, you may feel like you are the one who's sabotaging things for you, or you may feel like life is just not being fair. So, guys, as I close this off, I want you to know these 3 points I have here. Like I've always said, mental health isn't just something you talk about when things go wrong. Mental health is something that you work around every day. You work around it every day. So like we said in the first segment, take some time to meditate. Take some time to look at your success, what you've done, what you've achieved, how you can be better, what you didn't do well, and build up, build towards it. Mental health is how you think, how you respond, and how you live every day. How you respond to people, how you think about yourself, how you live in a safe area, in a not so safe area, but it's what you do with your life, because you have every opportunity to respond to your actions. Lastly, the small things you ignore are usually the things that build up. The small things you ignore are usually the things that build up. I mention the bedroom all the time. I'm telling you, my bedroom's not that messy, but it will pile up. You're searching for clothes. You find the clothes and you feel like you're rushing, so you don't put those other clothes back. You come back from wherever it is you went, the clothes are still on your bed, but you're tired. So you move them to the side and then you fall asleep. You wake up in the morning, now it's time to go to work. No time to put the clothes back in your drawer. It's just going to build up. It's just going to build up. It's just going to build up. You don't do your assignments on time, it's going to build up. You're going to get bad scores. You don't come to work on time, it's going to build up. You're going to have a reprimanding meeting or whatever they call it with your manager. It's going to build up. Try your best to handle the small things, because if you can handle the small things, you can handle the big. If you can't handle the small, then how will you ever handle the big? All right, guys, this is the end of our episode. I hope you enjoyed our talk on mental health. One thing I've come to understand about life is that you don't understand everything in one go. I'm 25 years old and I don't know everything in the world, but I'm eager to learn and I'm eager to make the best out of my life. And if it means that I need to work on my mental health step by step, then that's okay, because you don't learn everything, you don't know everything, and I think that's fine. So I just want to leave some points here for you guys, like a little refresh based off of what we've discussed already. Point number 1, it says that mental health isn't just something you talk about when things go wrong. Rightly so. It's not something you discuss when you know all your problems are at your door. It's something you work on every day. It's something you test every day. You take time and you build yourself. It's a process. So don't feel as though you need to rush, and don't feel as though you only need to talk about it when there are bad times. Find someone you trust, find a family member, find a guardian, or get a therapist and speak your truth. Second point here, mental health is it's about how you think, how you respond, and how you live every day. Every day. So you see, it's not just the bad times, but it's something you look at for your whole life. How you respond to people, how you think about yourself, how you live your own life. And the final point says that the small things you ignore are usually the ones that build up the most. So you see, the same thing I'm saying about the room. You take some clothes out of your wardrobe, you're looking for what to wear, you leave those clothes on the bed because you're rushing. When you come back, you might be too tired to put them back. So you sleep, you move them to the side, and now they're just piling up. You need to go to work, you need to go somewhere else, you get more clothes, or you're getting clothes from the pile. When are you going to arrange them? You realize that the small things you leave will build up, and then they become big problems. So you try and solve the small issues, because if you can solve the small issues, you can solve the larger ones. But if you can't solve the small ones, then how do you think you're going to address the larger ones? And that's it, people. I think that's all I have to say, honestly. Lion in the Room is not just a motivational podcast, but it's a podcast that is looking at life, looking at how to be better and to build foundations for ourselves. Because like I said, we don't know everything, but we all want to live good lives. And I think with every step you take, it should be a bold one, because boldness is one thing that can push away fear. Fear stops us from moving a lot, but as people, it's okay to be afraid, but you just need to move. And Lion in the Room is here to help you move boldly. This is not the only lion that you get to see. This is not the only lion in this room, because I know I'm talking to a few more lions in the other rooms over there as well. So take care of yourself, guys. God bless you. Jesus loves you, and peace.